In a world where you can be anything, be kind. It's a phrase so often quoted it risks becoming cliché. And yet, behind its simplicity lies a question that has echoed through centuries of philosophy. What is kindness, truly? Is it a soft-hearted sentiment, a polite act of generosity, or could it be something far more profound, perhaps even a moral obligation rooted in the very fabric of rational existence? When we turn to the works of Immanuel Kant, one of the most formidable minds in Western philosophy, we do not immediately think of kindness. Kant is famous for his rigid ethics, for the categorical imperative, for his insistence that duty, not emotion, should guide our actions. To many, this might seem cold, distant, and even hostile to something as warm and human as kindness. But perhaps that is precisely why Kant's philosophy offers one of the most radical defenses of true kindness. For Kant, kindness is not a mood. It is not charity sprinkled upon the worthy. Kindness, properly understood, is the recognition of dignity in every rational being and the will to act accordingly, not because we feel like it, but because it is right. Let us dive deeper into this moral landscape and explore how Kant's rigor gives kindness a backbone, lifting it beyond sentiment and into the realm of moral necessity. To understand Kantian kindness, we must first confront an uncomfortable truth: Kant distrusts emotions. In his groundwork for the metaphysics of morals, he writes that actions have moral worth only when they are done from duty, not from inclination or desire. This strikes modern ears as odd. Isn't the kindest person the one who wants to help others? Isn't morality richer when it flows from compassion? According to Kant, no. Compassion, while beautiful, is unreliable. Feelings can shift. We may feel generous one day and indifferent the next. But morality, Kant insists, must be universal and unshakable. It must stem from reason, not sentiment. So what then becomes of kindness? If we help an old man cross the street because we feel pity, Kant would say the act has no moral worth. But if we help him because we recognize, through reason, that he is a fellow rational being deserving of respect, and we act on that recognition purely because it is our duty to treat him as such, then our act becomes morally significant. Kant's view of kindness is cooler, more demanding, but also more stable. It does not waver with our moods. It does not discriminate. It does not ask whether someone deserves kindness. It simply insists, treat every person as an end in themselves, never merely as a means. That is the essence of Kantian kindness, not a fleeting feeling, but a constant moral command. At the heart of Kant's ethics lies the categorical imperative, a principle that asks us to act only according to that maxim which we could will to become a universal law. It is a litmus test for morality, stripping away personal preferences and focusing on what reason can affirm for all. Let us consider a simple act of kindness, giving up your seat on a bus to a stranger. According to Kant, we must ask, could the maxim one should help others in need be willed as a universal law? Clearly yes. A world in which everyone helped others in need would be coherent, harmonious, and morally desirable. But what if we chose not to help, not out of cruelty, but because we simply didn't feel like it? Kant would ask, could one should ignore others in need if it's inconvenient be willed as a universal law? Likely not. A society in which this principle held sway would collapse into coldness, distrust, and alienation. Therefore, such a maxim is immoral. This is where Kant's philosophy turns revolutionary. Kindness is no longer optional. It is no longer a virtue of the nice. It is a rational duty, a demand that reason makes upon all of us. In this way, Kant redefines kindness as a moral necessity, not a personal choice. It becomes an act of respect, not sentiment. An act rooted in the recognition of the other as an equal bearer of dignity. Perhaps the most powerful expression of Kantian kindness comes through what is known as the humanity formula of the categorical imperative. Kant writes, act in such a way that you treat humanity, whether in your own person or in the person of another, always at the same time as an end and never merely as a means. This principle cuts to the heart of kindness. It demands that we honor the intrinsic worth of every person, not because they are useful to us, not because they are attractive, not because they share our values, but simply because they are human. In a world increasingly driven by utility, image, and transactional relationships, this view is both radical and necessary. True kindness, says Kant, is non-instrumental. It does not ask, what will I get in return? It does not reduce people to functions. It looks into the eyes of the other and says, you matter. Your existence is sacred. I will treat you with dignity because it is what you are owed. This changes everything. It means kindness is not reserved for the likable or the innocent. Even the guilty, even the unpleasant, the strange, the hostile, retain this dignity. And we are called, by reason, to respond to that dignity with ethical consistency. Kant's reimagining of kindness also demands that we dispel a cultural myth that kindness is weak. Under Kantian ethics, kindness is not softness or passivity. It is not the desire to please. It is not the avoidance of conflict. Rather, it is a deliberate act of moral will, often requiring courage, discipline, and sacrifice. To treat others with dignity, especially when they do not treat us the same, requires profound strength. To act kindly in a world full of cruelty, not because we are naive but because we know better, because our reason demands it, this is moral greatness. In this way, Kantian kindness is a form of inner sovereignty. It refuses to be pulled around by mood or manipulation. It stands firm, like a mountain, grounded in principles deeper than the shifting winds of feeling. But of course, no philosophy is without its limits. Kant's suspicion of emotion may seem alienating. We might ask, is there not something beautiful in wanting to be kind? Must we divorce ethics from the heart entirely? Here we may find a bridge. Kant does not reject feelings, he only insists that they cannot be the foundation of moral worth. Yet when our feelings align with our duty, when compassion and reason flow in the same direction, that is the ideal. Kindness then becomes complete. It is both felt and chosen, both emotionally rich and ethically grounded. And even when we cannot summon the feelings, when anger, weariness, or bitterness threaten to rule us, we can still choose kindness because our reason compels us to rise above. This is where Kant offers real hope, that even in the absence of ideal conditions, we are always free to act rightly. We are not slaves to our impulses. We can choose the good, not just when it is easy, but especially when it is hard. What does all this mean in daily life? It means that every act of kindness is an echo of something larger. When you listen patiently to someone who is hurting, not for praise, but because you recognize their humanity, you are fulfilling a Kantian ideal. When you refrain from gossiping, not because you fear being caught, but because it violates the dignity of the person spoken about, you honor the moral law. When you forgive, not because you feel warmth, but because you understand the other is a person like you, flawed and striving, then you are practicing true, rational kindness. These moments may not look heroic, but in Kant's philosophy, they are acts of great moral significance. They are evidence of a will governed not by whim but by principle. And that in the end is what makes us truly human. Immanuel Kant may not be the first name that comes to mind when we think of kindness. But in his ethical system, we find one of the most profound visions of what kindness can be, not a favor, not a feeling, not an act of charity, but a rational commitment to human dignity. In a world obsessed with appearances and outcomes, Kant calls us back to something deeper. He reminds us that we are not good because we feel good. We are good because we choose to be. And kindness, when grounded in this moral freedom, becomes not just a virtue, but a declaration that every person matters, that every moment counts, and that goodness is stronger than convenience. So the next time you are called to kindness, ask not, do I feel like it? But rather, what would reason say is right? In that question lies the quiet revolution of Kant's moral world, and perhaps the beginning of a better one. Thank you for accompanying. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel and leave a comment below so we can discuss. Wish you and your family good health.